just a hack. He's just an absolute hack. And he gets his ass kicked by his teammates every week. It's just, it's terrible. It's just terrible.
Welcome to the Believe in NFL Draft Prospect Podcast Spotlight interview. Now joining the show with me today is Mr. Clark Phillips III, star cornerback out of the University of Utah. I always love talking to Utah guys. Coach Whittingham and Coach Scally over there, they play the correct brand of football. Always develop guys to the next level, whether it's guys like Marcus Williams and Jalen Johnson, especially on the defensive back end. Fantastic football players. Talking to the next guy, only a true sophomore, technically, redshirt freshman with the obviously the COVID year attached and only the availability to play a few games. Clark, appreciate you, man, hopping in. How's everything going for you, brother?
Man, really, really good. Again, thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate it. Everything's going good. We're far down the season now. We're trying to finish out with a bang, finish out strong.
Absolutely, man. And hopefully we're getting out this interview the week right after beating Oregon, man. Like we were talking a little bit, setting this up. Obviously, you guys had a really big outing, and you guys dominated. I think it was 38-7 final. It was I would say that was a statement game for the University of Utah. I know that, obviously Oregon was the number 3 team in the country. What was it like, man? Big stage, big moment, and you guys came out and played a great game, offensively and defensively.
Man, it was great. It was special to see us play as a full team. I feel like everything was clicking from offense to defense. Structurally, everyone was playing pretty technique sound, assignment sound football, and you saw the outcome, man. Big shout out to the fan base, man. I feel like they played a big part in that. Definitely got the best fans in the nation, I feel like. And, it was just a product of, how hard that we worked all season, man. It was like, I feel like we knew that it was going to be a dogfight. And as soon as we stepped on the field, it was like, all right, we got to dominate these guys. And, man, when we looked up at the scoreboard after the game, we surprised ourselves.
Yeah, and obviously Oregon's a really good football team. So anytime you have a statement victory like that, it's fantastic. And you mentioned the fan base a little bit, and I want to ask you about Utah and that fan base. Obviously, You are a California kid. If you look at the kind of the recruiting background, you're a 4-star, 5-star by every publication, every platform, and you were actually originally committed to Ohio State. So talk to me a little bit about just a little bit of the recruitment and why ultimately flipping to Utah was the best spot for you.
So, yeah, man, great question. I was committed to Ohio State for quite some time during the recruiting process. I felt like that was the place I was, most comfortable with. That was a place where I was going to, exceed or get me to the next level. And I was going to be developed as a player and as a young man. And so going through the process, I looked for qualities like, guys like my dad, wanted to be around a guy for 3 to 4 years that reminded me of my dad. And for that was Jeff Hafley. That was, Coach Ryan Day, and they reminded me of my pops in the way that he was, just in their leadership roles and just how competitive that they were and how they did things. And so, I was already talking to Coach Sharif Shaw at Utah. I was already talking to Coach Freddie Whittingham, and I felt like our relationship was really, really good. And so as soon as we got word later on down the line, probably about a month before the signing day, that there was a possibility of a coaching change at Ohio State. It was no second thoughts about it. I was already talking to Utah, felt good about Coach Shaw. I'm like, this dude is like a carbon copy of my dad. This dude is like bald head and everything, So I always tease Coach Shaw, and so they remind me of each other a lot. And Coach Shaw is super competitive. Hearing great things about him. I knew what they were doing in the secondary. Knew what they do defensively. It was an easy switch, easy transition.
Yeah, and I don't think Clark, obviously, like you were maybe going to go to Ohio State, which has produced great defensive backs, but I think quietly, maybe not so quietly anymore, Utah, again, Coach Whittingham, one of the best defensive minds in the country, Coach Scally, who I've actually had the opportunity to kind of do a one-on-one interview with him a couple years back. We talked a little bit about just the defensive backs that have come through there. I mentioned, Marcus Williams, I mentioned Jalen Johnson. There's a lot of great defensive backs that have come out of Utah. Can you talk to me a little bit about the lineage that is being created, a part of that youth program, specifically in the secondary and just on the defensive side of the football in general?
Yeah, man. Speaking of that, during my recruiting process, that's one thing that Coach Whittingham and Coach Shaw were very, very upfront about. What they plan to do with their DBs, what they've already done, and what I could possibly be a part of. And so that was something that even after my dad did his research, it was very apparent what Utah does with defense and with defensive backs in particular. So it was easy to have confidence knowing that, hey, I'm gonna go to a program where, okay, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna be developed, and then I'll have the possibility of going to the next level and dominating as well. And so, it definitely gives me hope, and makes me happy to see even those guys doing stuff at the next level. They didn't just get there. Some of those guys are balling right now, and so a lot of them are starting and doing really really good things. So it definitely is something, a bright light that is shined when you're watching them from this level.
For sure. And I mean, you can even take it back to the early Coach Whittingham days of like Eric Weddle. And there's just been
Yeah,
so
man.
many. Sean Smith was a really good corner there for a few years. Like there's just been so many guys. And I don't blame anybody, obviously, especially defensive back, for wanting to play at Utah. So kind of want to ask you, Clark, though, so the 2020 season, I know, was obviously very difficult, right? Pac-12 was canceled due to COVID, and then it comes back late. You only get to play a few football games. You as a freshman, how difficult was, just kind of that abbreviated haphazard season, and how excited were you just kind of get back to what is a more normal season now in 2021?
Yeah, man, it was tough. It was full of obstacles and challenges. I feel like 2020 was a year that really marked the development of our young defense. Not in that year, but the time after. And so I feel like now you're seeing a product of what we experienced in 2020, because it was tough. It was a tough year. It was a lot of what do we have? 10 new starters.
Yeah.
And it was we had a lot of new guys out there, including myself. We took our lumps early in the season, man. We got better and better as the season went on. But, I say as the season went on, but we only played 5 games. We didn't really get to see what it would be like, at the back end of the season. So I'm grateful for it, man. 2020 was definitely a tough year, but I'm grateful that, we got through it. And, now we're really starting to see, what we're capable of. And also, yeah, I'm just so excited for this team, man. The more I think about it, I'm like, wow, it's really been 2 years with this new defense.
And how special is this team, Clark? Because I know, you mentioned, I can name 100 guys from Rising, a quarterback, and Thomas, the young running back, and Covey's still there for the millionth year. And there's so many good football players. And I really want to ask you about one specifically, because I want to ask you about how special this team is. And then I want you to give us a little insight into Devin Lloyd, because that kid is all over every single week.
Yeah, man. So first and foremost, not the team, man. I feel like we've got, a full puzzle, a complete puzzle. It took us a little while to get on our feet, I felt like, and it took us a couple of games. We had a rough start, I feel like, and a start that we didn't plan on having. And the team's grit, the team's courage and passion really showed, throughout the season. We really just kept on playing. We stayed the course, and I feel like, the team as a unit has really come together. Now we're going on week 12, and I feel like we're strong as we're showing every single week, the team that we're capable of being. We showed glimpses of it last year. We showed glimpses of it earlier in the season, and now we're starting to play as a unit. Man, and Devin, that dude is he's everything that you want in your linebacker. Field general, competitive, passionate, and then just a playmaker. That dude, and then in the biggest games, he's made some of the biggest plays. So I feel like you couldn't ask for more from that guy.
Absolutely. And I want to ask you now, kind of just looking at your film, because obviously you put a lot of good moments in 2020 in the small amount of games. This year, I mean, I told you before I started, and I will put this out in the universe, I don't care. You might be the best corner I've watched on film, just, in the last calendar year. Like, honestly, you have just put on some phenomenal film in 2021. Talk to me a little bit about the development in your game. Obviously, not playing a ton in 2020 as a freshman. We already talked about that. But what do you feel like have been the biggest growth in your game since you stepped foot on Utah?
For me, I feel like it's just been I needed experience. I needed better discipline. The cornerback position is based around discipline, from eye discipline to knowing your assignment, executing. And then it comes down to also playmaking. Sometimes you've got to be able to take those risks, and sometimes they're gonna be the difference in a game. And so I feel like my ability has really increased this year from last year in terms of just playing within the system, playing within the scheme, and then also playing my game. Because I came here, I knew that they played a lot of man. I really wanted to be part of a defense that did that. Also, with that being said, learning how to play, a lot more zones, different types of zones. I understood it before I got here, but coming into a system where you got Coach Scally, then you got Coach Shaw, those guys are super, focused on the details, and so they really develop. And coming here, it's super encouraging because those guys have made sure that I take the strides necessary to accomplish it, to meet the goals weekly that I needed to meet, for me, and then also for the team. They stay on us, man, and they stay on me, and so I'm just grateful for those guys, man, and I'm grateful for the development that I've actually been able to get throughout the season as well.
Before we continue on with this discussion, folks, I do want to tell you about BetOnline, today's sponsors. Our partners at BetOnline continue to be the number one source for all of your betting needs and sports info. Find all of the latest sports developments, including updated odds on the NBA playoffs, fights, and even next season's futures. Don't forget that the MLB is back. Who are you picking to win the World Series? BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sports wagering needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino and poker games. It's super easy to get started, so head to their website today or use your mobile device to join and use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Yeah, and that's why I love the Utah defense so much. Like you said, there's such a variety of different coverages. Like when you talk about defensive backs coming out, they have literally seen that, done that to the highest of levels. So That's one thing that really impresses me about you. And this next question, I'm a big comp guy. I love player comps. I absolutely love it. I'm going to give you one on yourself that is it's a little mean of me to put this much pressure on you, but when I watch you play, this is who I see, stylistically speaking. Obviously, it's not like I'm not predicting you to be one of the best corners of all time, although I think you're incredibly talented. So just putting that out there for a second.
I appreciate that.
I wrote down the name Darrelle Revis, and for me, I see it. Like, you're not the biggest guy in the world, but like you play so much bigger than that. You can literally play. You can put yourself on an island, man-to-man all day, but then instincts in zone, I see it, and there's a competitiveness to that that's something that you can't quantify. Like, I can measure you all day. I can measure Darrelle all day, who was a sub-6 foot guy, and I could say, like, this are the numbers. This is what, is tangible. But then that competitive factor, you can't quantify that. So first of all, opinion of that comp, and after that, can you give me some of your guys that maybe you like to watch, that maybe you model a little bit after yourself?
Man, I appreciate that, man. And it's crazy because I actually studied Darrelle Revis. I studied him for years, and I still actually watch his film. I watch his cut-ups against, just every receiver, even in his later career, even later in his career when, everyone called him old man and Darrelle Revis, seeing all this stuff. And he was getting ran by and everything, but no, I appreciate that, man, because that's one of the greatest. And I feel like, like you said, his competitive nature is something that I definitely took from his game. His ability to be physical, even being what they say, an undersized DB, it was special. And his ability to just continue to compete, to make plays at the highest level was super special. Now, who I really tried to model my game after, I'd say I picked from everyone. I love Deion Sanders and the way that he took the ball. Now he did that like no other. I feel like I love Marshawn Lattimore. I studied him just because he's got that streak, that mean streak. He's super competitive, and his man coverage is flawless. And then I also
sorry, not to cut you off. I was just going to say Marshawn's foot quickness too. His click and close is just absurd too. Just want to throw that
ridiculous.
In there. Yeah,
it's ridiculous, man. I also love Jeff Okudah. I'll just highlight one part of his game. I love the way that in zone coverage he comes down and really attacks the run. Jalen Ramsey, fine, I'll close it with Jalen Ramsey. He speaks for himself, and now he's got all the hype, and everyone's going to be like, wow, of course you say Jalen Ramsey. But I love, the way that he gets his hands on in man press and man coverage, and the way that he's just, tenaciously just physical and, persistent. He's persistent with the way that he attacks receivers, attacks running backs. And, seeing him transition to playing nickel at first, when he moved inside, I was like, okay, no way, this dude's going to do that. And then seeing him dominate at that position as well is special. Not a lot of guys can do that. So, man, those are some guys that I study, and I study to this day.
Well, I love that. I love that excerpt too on Rams, because I was the same way. I'm actually a Rams fan, so I watch them every single week. And when I saw that he was, kind of moving inside and even playing some safety at times, I'm like, I don't really like that man-to-man on the inside.
Yeah.
A long-legged guy, like where's the quickness factor
it's
there?
A different world.
Yeah, but when you're a great football player, I guess you're a great football player wherever you put them. And I don't blame you at all for the Ramsey things. If any corner right now, I expect to say Jalen Ramsey. Any defensive tackle, I expect to say Aaron Donald. Like those are just some of the guys. You know what I mean?
You got to mention them when you got to mention them.
Absolutely, man. Like you have to. And again, Clark, I really appreciate the time, man. Only a couple more questions for you. The next step I want to talk about, first and foremost, the end of this season, coming off a big win. What are some goals that you have from a team perspective, from an individual perspective? What's going to make this the perfect ending to the season?
Perfect ending, man. First and foremost, we got to get roses. We want to be in the Rose Bowl. We want to win the Pac-12 championship. And then we just want to beat everyone in front of us. And so, whereas we may have had some losses, some things like that, we still believe that we're the best team. And I feel like the team's confidence is at an all-time high right now. With us getting that big win, we just want to close it out with a bang. We want to close it out strong. Personally, I want to, I wrote down some goals at the beginning of the season. I want to be all Pac-12 everything. Of course, I want to be first team. And I want to, really just continue to make my mark. I want to take the ball more. I want to take the ball in these big next couple of games. If I'm throwing that, I want to, be able to make an impact with getting my hands on the ball. And so that's something that I want to do. And then, just want to continue to lead my young corner group, man, because I feel like we're really, really special. And I want to continue to grow as a DB unit and as a defense. I want to show everybody, what we're about and what we're a part of.
And I saw a crazy stat. I think I posted on that graphic about you. You've given up 12 yards playing outside since week 7 or some crazy number like that.
Yeah.
For you now that you're already, because yes, you want to make all Pac. I get that. You want to make all American, all that. I think that stuff is genuinely in the future, obviously, and especially the Pac this year. But for you as a player, what do you feel like? And we talked about some of the improvements that you've had since you stepped foot on campus. For you, what is the next step from Clark Phillips to not only be one of the best corner potentially in the Pac, but to be considered the best in the nation? Like, what are some things that you feel like could separate you down the road now?
Oh man, great question. I feel like big thing for me is just going to be consistency. Just doing it week in, week out, and then just I feel like also taking the ball. That was something that I did in high school, something I did earlier. I've got 2 pick sixes in my career at Utah, but I just feel like just continuing to take the ball, and then continuing to show the intelligence and zone, because I feel like they know that we can play man now. We've done a lot of that, and we're going to continue to do that as a part of our defense. But I'm continuing to have great eyes and zone, and then yeah, man, just being consistent. I feel like that's the theme of our defense, theme of every great corner. You got to be consistent. You got to do your job week in and week out, man. And I just want to make plays at the biggest level. And I feel like, with us making it to the championship, with us playing in big games, this is the perfect time to show that,
Absolutely. And kind of my last question for you is, I know that you as a second-year player here, you're not eligible until 2023. You could go in 2024. You can go 2025. Like, who knows when you're ultimately going to make the jump. But just kind of looking forward for a second. Obviously, I'm a guy that thinks that you're going to be highly coveted whenever you do make that jump. First and foremost, how long has that been a dream for you to potentially play professional football? And when it does happen, just what type of blessing would that be for you?
Man, it's been a dream of mine since the moment I picked up a football. I always wanted to change the life of my family, and my dad's always kept that goal in mind. He's always made sure that I knew that it was possible from the moment I picked up a football, before I was even double-digit age numbers. He always made sure that I felt like, hey, this is possible. You just got to work. And he was always brutally honest as well. Hey, if you're not working hard enough, you won't ever get there. If you don't do the things, consistently that you need to do, you won't ever get there. And so I've always kept that in the back of my mind, and kept it close to the vest as well. And just knowing that I got to do everything that I can do, and put everything on the field that I want to put on in terms of film, so that I can get there. And yeah, man, I can't. That's something that I think about every day. I'm like, am I doing what I promised? Am I doing what I said I would do? And that's why I'm in the facility right now watching some film, man. But no, I just I ask myself every day, that I do enough, and so that's one of the big things that I think about every day in terms of the NFL.
Yeah.
What was the second question?
Just how much of a blessing it would be.
Man, huge blessing. You know, like I said earlier, I just really want to change the lives of my family. My dad always tries to uh, take away the unnecessary pressure. Now what we talk about, he's like, dude, I don't want to put pressure on you. I don't want you to feel like, hey, you have to do that. And I'm like, Dad, I promised it, and that's what I tell him. Like, we talked about this when I was, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Every year I can remember, we talked about this, and this was something that I said I'd do. And so I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it at the best level and at the highest level. And so it's something that I always have in the back of my mind when I'll come up to this facility, man.
I love it. Well, again, Clark Phillips III, defensive back out of Utah. Number 8, if you haven't checked him out yet, NFL draft fans, college football fans, make sure to get your eyes on the Utah defense and Clark specifically sometime soon. Clark, really appreciate you again, man, squeezing me in during some film time, but awesome just to get a little bit of the backstory, brother, and I really appreciate all the time today.
Thank you, man, for having me, man. I'll talk to you soon. I appreciate it.